The incident no one saw coming sun was beginning to set over Venice Beach, casting golden streaks across the ocean waves. People moved about, laughing, talking, playing music, or simply soaking in the moment. It was a peaceful evening until a sharp voice broke through the calm. "You, stop right there. Hands where I can see them." People turned. A police officer, tall and stern, was marching toward a man sitting quietly near a street musician. The man wasn't doing anything suspicious. In fact, he was just handing a water bottle to a child who looked tired and hungry. The officer's tone was harsh, like thunder cracking through the sky. "Don't move. I said hands where I can see." Them. The crowd stiffened. Phones began to come out. A few people started recording, unsure what was happening. And then, as the officer got closer, someone recognized the man. A whisper rippled through the crowd. "Wait, that's Keanu Reeves." Keanu looked calm, but there was a flicker of confusion in his eyes. He stood up slowly, his hands open, non-threatening. "Is something wrong, officer?" he asked gently, his voice quiet, almost too soft to match the tension rising around him. The officer ignored the question. "You think you can play hero here? Handing out stuff like you're some savior? Where's your ID?" Keanu blinked, stunned. "Sir, I'm just helping. This little boy was thirsty. He's sitting alone. I think he's lost." The boy, barely 6 years old, clung to Keanu's leg. He looked terrified, eyes wide, unsure who to trust. The officer stepped forward aggressively, grabbing Keanu by the arm. "You think you're better than everyone else, huh?" Someone in the crowd gasped. "Yo, get your hands off him. That's Keanu Reeves, man." The officer paused for a split second, but didn't let go. Keanu didn't resist. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't fight back. "Officer," he said again, voice steady but kind, "I'm not trying to make a scene. The child looked like he needed help. Please don't scare him." But it was too late. The boy began crying. The officer snapped. "You people think you're heroes just because you have a little money and a camera on you. You don't belong here." People were now shouting. Some yelled for the officer to stop. Others screamed at the injustice. And amidst the noise, something happened. A woman stepped forward. She was in her 50s, with silver hair and a badge around her neck. "I work internal affairs," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Let him go now." The officer turned sharply. "Who the hell are you two?" But she cut him off. "You just laid hands on Keanu Reeves, a man who has donated millions. Quietly, who's helped homeless shelters, who just tried to comfort a child you ignored. You're being recorded." Every second of this, the officer's face turned red. The grip loosened. Keanu gently pulled his arm away and crouched back down beside the child. He wiped the tears from the boy's face and whispered something nobody else could hear. The child nodded, holding his hand. In the crowd, once noisy with tension, went silent, not because they were afraid, but because they saw something. Keanu stood up slowly, still calm, still soft in his presence. "Let's not make this worse then." "It has to be," he said. "We're all human. Maybe we're all just having a hard day." That moment was powerful. Because he didn't raise his voice. He didn't shout or curse. He chose compassion. Later that evening, videos from the crowd began to flood social media. Within hours, they had millions of views. People were stunned. Not just by the officer's aggression, but by Keanu's response. A young woman named Lily, who had recorded everything, uploaded her clip with the caption, "He could have humiliated the officer. He could have yelled. But instead, he just protected a scared child. This man is something else." And she was right, because while many were focused on the cop's behavior, Keanu's choice not to escalate, his choice to remain grounded, calm, and kind spoke louder than any argument. Meanwhile, across the city, a woman named Nadia watched the video from her tiny apartment. She clutched her phone with trembling hands. "He found him," she whispered, tears falling. "My son. He found my son." Because the child Keanu had helped wasn't just any child. He was Nadia's, and he had been missing for 2 days. The story that began with injustice was just beginning to unfold. But no one, not even Keanu, knew how deep this would go. And how it would change not just the boy's life, but his own. A mother's tears and a stranger's courage. The morning after the incident, the world was still buzzing. News outlets picked up the story. Social media was flooded with praise for Keanu Reeves. Not because he was a celebrity, but because he acted with grace when it would have been easy to explode. But far from the noise, in a rundown neighborhood just outside downtown Los Angeles, a mother was weeping into her hands. Nadia hadn't slept in days. Ever since her 6-year-old son, Sami, vanished from the small park near their apartment, her world had stopped. Posters were taped to street poles, her voice hoarse from asking strangers for help, and the police had done little more than file a report. But now there was a video. Her trembling fingers held her phone as she watched the moment Keanu kneeled beside Sami. His gentle hands, his quiet voice. The way Sami clung to him like he had finally found safety. "That's my baby," she whispered. "That's my Sami." She didn't care that it was Keanu Reeves. She didn't even recognize him at first. What she saw was a man who had treated her child like a human being when everyone else had looked the other way, and she had to find him. Keanu was back in his modest home in the Hollywood Hills, away from the buzz. He never chased attention. In fact, he hated it. He had turned down interviews, calls from news stations, even messages from other celebrities praising him. None of it mattered. His heart was still stuck on that boy, Sami. He couldn't stop thinking about the fear in his eyes, the way he flinched when the officer shouted. It reminded Keanu of something from his own past, a memory he hadn't shared with many. He knew that look. He had worn it once. Meanwhile, back at Venice Beach, Lily, the woman who had recorded the video, was sitting at a coffee shop when a stranger tapped her shoulder. "Excuse me," the woman said, her voice shaking. "Did you post the video of the man helping the little boy yesterday?" Lily nodded. "Yeah, it went kind of viral." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "I'm his mother," Lily gasped. "You're Sami's mom?" Nadia nodded. "I need to thank him, please. I've been looking everywhere. Do you know where I can find him?" Lily thought for a moment, then pulled out her phone. Double quotes, "I think I know someone who might know." Keanu was at a bookstore, quietly browsing the history section, when a familiar voice called out, "Mr. Reeves?" He turned and smiled. It was Lily. "Hello again," he said softly. "How's your day?" "Better now," she said. "There's someone who needs to see you." Before he could ask, she stepped aside. Nadia stood there, clutching a worn-out backpack, her lips trembling, her eyes full of hope and pain all at once. Keanu single quotes, as heart skipped. He didn't need an introduction. "You're Sami's mom," he said. She nodded, then broke down, not loudly, not dramatically, but like a mother who had carried too much for too long. He stepped forward and embraced her. It wasn't the hug of a movie star. It was the hug of a man who had seen pain and knew what it meant to feel invisible. "Thank you," she whispered into his chest. "You found him. You saved him." Keanu pulled back gently and looked her in the eyes. "He saved me too." They sat together in a small cafe nearby. Keanu ordered 2 teas, though neither of them touched it. Nadia told him everything. How Sami had run off after an argument at school. How she'd begged police for help, but they said he'd probably come home when he was hungry. How no one had taken her seriously because of the way she looked. Because she was a single mother, an immigrant. Because her English was broken. "I work 2 jobs," she said. "I'm a cleaner. Sometimes I miss his bedtime, but I love him. I love him more than anything." Keanu listened silently, his eyes never leaving hers. "I believe you," he said. "And I'm so sorry you were ignored." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "But you saw him. You stopped. Why?" Keanu looked out the window for a long moment before answering. "Because once, a long time ago, I ran too," he said quietly. "And someone stopped for me." He didn't explain further. He didn't need to. Nadia understood. Just then, a woman burst into the cafe. It was the same officer from Internal Affairs, the one who had intervened the day before. She looked flustered. "Mr. Reeves," she said, walking over. "Sorry to interrupt, but we need to talk. It's about the officer from yesterday." Keanu glanced at Nadia, who nodded for him to go. Outside, the officer pulled him aside. "He's denying everything," she said. "He says you were aggressive, that the crowd twisted the story. But we have the footage. Your actions were calm, respectful." Keanu sighed. "I don't want revenge." "You're not getting revenge," she replied. "You're protecting others." He has 5 other complaints, 3 involving young Black and Latino men. He always had excuses. But not this time. Keanu nodded. "Do what's right. That's all I ask." As she left, she looked back. "By the way, that boy? You gave him back his mother. And maybe you gave a lot of people hope." Keanu said nothing, but deep inside, something stirred. The story was far from over, because while the world celebrated him, Keanu was thinking about the people who didn't have cameras recording. The ones no one saw, the ones no one believed, and he made a quiet decision. He would use his voice, but not for fame. For justice. And for the invisible. The spotlight turns, but Keanu steps as it eth. Next few days passed like a storm. News vans lined the streets near Keanu's home. Reporters waited outside restaurants, gyms, even bookstores, hoping to catch him for a soundbite. Social media kept exploding with hashtags like #Keanu for Justice and #Protect Our Kids. People wanted a hero. They wanted a symbol, but Keanu didn't want any of that. He wasn't doing interviews. He wasn't signing book deals. He wasn't capitalizing on what had happened. Instead, he was spending time with Sammy. They sat at the same beach where they'd first met, drawing shapes in the sand, laughing quietly. Keanu brought sandwiches and told Sammy stories, not of Hollywood or red carpets, but of his childhood, of bikes and books and getting lost in the woods once. And most importantly, he listened. "Do you ever get scared?" Sammy asked one afternoon. Keanu smiled gently. "All the time." "But you don't look scared," Sammy said, frowning. "That's because I learned something," Keanu replied. "Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It just means you care enough to keep going." The boy looked down, thoughtful. "I didn't think anyone cared when I went missing." Keanu put a hand on his shoulder. "Someone always cares, even if you don't see them right away." Meanwhile, Nadia had returned to work. But everything was different now. Her manager at the hotel had suddenly started treating her with more respect. Neighbors who once ignored her now greeted her warmly. Some even offered help. But the biggest change, she felt seen. And she knew exactly why. It wasn't because of Keanu's fame. It was because he didn't treat her like someone beneath him. He had spoken to her like an equal. And that changed something in her spirit. One evening, as she tucked Sammy into bed, he asked, "Mom, is Keanu an angel?" Nadia chuckled softly. "No, Habibi, he's a man. Just a very kind one." But deep in her heart, a quiet voice whispered, maybe he was a little bit of both. Back in the city, the officer who had attacked Keanu was placed under suspension pending investigation. Internal Affairs dug into his history and found a troubling pattern: aggression, racial profiling, and bending the truth when cameras weren't rolling. The footage Lily captured had changed everything. The public demanded accountability. Protests were organized, not chaotic or violent, but peaceful. Signs were held that read, "Protect kids, not power." compassion is strength, and simply, thank you, Keanu. But Keanu didn't show up at any rallies. He didn't stand on a podium or wave a flag. Instead, he showed up somewhere else, quietly at a community center downtown. He walked in wearing an old hoodie and jeans, no security, no press. He just sat in the back as a local group discussed ways to help lost and runaway children. Someone finally recognized him and gasped, "Wait, are you?" Keanu raised a hand gently. "Just here to listen," and listen he did. Stories poured out of kids slipping through the cracks, of overwhelmed mothers, of shelters with too few beds, of officers who didn't care. And one by one, faces turned hopeful. "If he's here," one young woman said, "maybe we have a chance." Keanu stood up slowly after the meeting. "I don't have all the answers," he said, "but I've got time. I've got ears, and I've got a little money. Maybe we can start something." The room went silent. Then erupted in applause. A week later, an announcement was made quietly. With no cameras. Keanu had set up a fund called the Sammy Initiative, named after the boy who reminded him what kindness looked like when everything was broken. The initiative's goal was simple: to support lost and runaway children and protect families who were often ignored. Nadia was made one of the board members. She cried when she found out. "Why me?" she asked him. "Because you never gave up," Keanu said. "And others need to see that strength." But the world, as always, has a way of testing kindness, and as the Sammy Initiative began its work, a new challenge surfaced. A video, not of the cop, not of Keanu, but of Sammy. A cruel man online had shared a clip of the crying boy during the incident, mocking him. The video spread fast. People laughed, called Sammy weak, called him soft. Nadia saw it first. Her hands trembled. "How can they be so cruel?" she whispered. Keanu was furious, not loud, not vengeful, but a quiet fury that burned deep. He made a rare post. A single message: to those mocking a child for crying while being shouted at by a stranger, shame on you. Strength isn't about how loud you are. It's how kind you choose to be in your quietest moments. The post went viral. But something deeper happened. Hundreds of parents began sharing stories of their children scared, confused, overwhelmed. And slowly, the tide turned. The cruel video disappeared. And Sammy? He started smiling again, because now, when he walked outside, strangers didn't just see him as the crying boy. They saw him as the boy who started a movement, and behind him, always nearby, was Keanu. Not because he had to be, but because he chose to be. But just when it seemed things were settling. A letter arrived at Keanu's home. A handwritten note. No name, no return address. It read, "You don't know the full story. You helped the wrong boy." Keanu stared at the words, his breath caught in his throat. The past, it seemed, had more secrets to reveal. Asterisk whispers from the past, truths in. The Canoe sat alone in his living room, holding the letter in his hands. The message was short, only 10 words, but it echoed louder than anything he had heard in weeks. "You don't know the full story. You helped the wrong boy." He stared at the words again and again. Was it a threat? A warning? A cruel joke? Number, name, no signature, no return address. But something about the handwriting felt deliberate, careful. Someone had meant for him to read this and feel shaken. And it worked. For the first time since the incident with the officer, Keanu felt truly unsettled. He folded the letter, placed it gently on the table, and looked out the window. The sun was going down, painting the sky in soft oranges and purples, but his heart felt gray. The next morning, Keanu visited Nadia and Sammy. He didn't mention the letter, at least not yet. Instead, he brought a few children's books for Sammy and sat with him while he read aloud, pausing every few lines to ask questions or giggle at silly words. Nadia watched them from the kitchen, smiling. "He's finally laughing again," she said softly. He sleeps better now. Keanu nodded. He's strong, so are you. But behind his smile, the letter weighed on him. That night, he called Lily, the woman who had filmed the incident and helped connect him to Nadia. She had become a quiet ally in the background, helping organize support and making sure the Sami initiative stayed rooted in the community. I need your help, he said. She met him at a small diner on the edge of the city, the kind of place that still served coffee in chipped mugs and played old jazz in the background. Keanu slid the letter across the table. Lily read it twice. That's messed up, she whispered. What do you think it means? I don't know, Keanu said. But it feels personal. And it feels true. You think Sami's lying? No, Keanu replied firmly. Never, but maybe there's more to the story. And if someone's hurting, I need to know. Lily leaned back. I know a friend who works at the post office. Maybe they can trace where the letter was dropped off. Keanu nodded slowly. Thank you. Over the next few days, Keanu stayed close to Sami. But he was also quiet, more reflective. He replayed every moment from that day at the beach. Something tugged at him. Something about Sami's reaction when the officer approached. He had hidden behind Keanu instantly, like he knew the drill. Too instantly. As if it had happened before. Meanwhile, Lily's contact came through. The letter had been mailed from a tiny postal box outside a shelter across town, a shelter for displaced youth. Keanu didn't hesitate. He drove there the same day, alone. The building was small, worn down, its windows covered with bars. A woman at the front desk looked up when he walked in and almost dropped her pen. Are you? He smiled gently. Hi, I'm looking to speak with someone who might have mailed this. He handed her a copy of the letter. She read it, her eyes narrowing. We don't give out info about residents. I understand, Keanu said. But if someone's scared or angry or hurting, I just want to help. She hesitated, then pointed to a hallway. Talk to Malcolm, third door on the left. Keanu thanked her and walked down the narrow corridor, inside. The room was a teenage boy, maybe 15 or 16. Thin, dark eyes, cautious. He didn't stand when Keanu entered, just looked up from his sketchpad. You're him, he said. From the video, Keanu nodded. I was told you might know something, the boy shrugged. Depends what you're looking for. Keanu pulled up a chair. I'm looking for the truth. Malcolm tapped his pencil on the page. That kid. You helped, Sami. I knew him, he was here for a while. Keanu leaned in. What do you mean? Malcolm looked away. He wasn't just lost. He ran away from his mom. Keanu blinked. Why? He said she hit him, Malcolm said quietly. He said she got angry a lot, screamed, locked him in the closet sometimes. The room fell into silence. I didn't want to believe it, Malcolm added. But he showed me bruises. On his back. Keanu's chest tightened. Are you sure? I don't lie, Malcolm said firmly. I used to. But not anymore. I wrote the letter. I didn't want to hurt you. Just wanted you to know. Keanu felt the weight of it all pressing in. Nadia? The mother who cried, the mother who never gave up, was she hiding something? Or was Sami just scared, confused, saying things out of pain? He left the shelter with a heavy heart and a dozen questions. That evening, Keanu drove to Nadia's apartment. Sami was asleep. Nadia welcomed him in, smiling, but it faded when she saw his expression. Something's wrong, she said softly. Keanu sat across from her. I need to ask you something, and I hope you'll understand. Nadia nodded slowly. Of course. Did you ever hurt Sami? Her face went pale. A long silence followed. Why? Would you ask that? She whispered. Someone told me Sami said you did. Her eyes filled with tears. I never hit him. Never. But I screamed. I broke things. I lost control. Especially after his father left. She covered her face. I never touched him. But maybe Maybe I scared him. Maybe he felt unsafe. I was so alone, so tired. Keanu's heart ached. "Thank you for being honest," he said. "I thought I was doing my best," she cried. "But maybe it wasn't enough." Keanu reached across the table, gently placing his hand on hers. "It's not about being perfect," he said. "It's about doing better once you know." Later that night, he sat on a bench outside, watching the stars. He thought of Malcolm. He thought of Sammy. He thought of Nadia. They were all fighting silent battles. And maybe that was the truth. The letter wanted him to see that no one was fully innocent, that no one fully guilty, that just people doing their best with what they knew. But now he knew more, and that meant he had to do more. The next morning, Keanu met with Lily again. "We're changing the program," he said. "The Sammy initiative will include therapy and trauma counseling. For families, we won't just rescue kids, we'll rebuild homes." Lily smiled. "You're doing something bigger now." "Not me," Keanu said. "We." But just as things started to take shape, another storm was waiting. A news outlet had picked up a new rumor. An anonymous source claimed Keanu was hiding the real story behind the incident, that he had paid off the family to silence a scandal. Actors. "Kindness was staged," the headline read. "Truth behind the tears." And this time, it was going to get ugly. Truth under fire. Kindness on trial headline spread like wildfire. Actors' kindness was staged. Truth behind the tears. It was everywhere. Morning news, social media, YouTube gossip channels, even newspapers were printing versions of the story. People who once praised Keanu were now doubting him. Influencers posted reaction videos saying they felt betrayed. One tabloid even claimed he had hired Nadia and Sammy as actors. Keanu watched it unfold. From the quiet of his home, he didn't flinch. He didn't call a lawyer. He didn't post a video defending himself. But inside, it hurt. Not because his image was under attack, but because the real story, the broken lives he was trying to help, was being buried beneath lies. Nadia was devastated. She stayed up late pacing the apartment, deleting comments from strangers calling her a scammer and opportunist. Some even messaged threats. "What if they take Sammy away?" She whispered to Keanu during one of their calls. "What if they say I'm unfit?" Keanu's voice was calm, steady. "You're not alone. We'll get through this together." But the damage was real. Sammy came home from school crying. "Kids said we lied," he sobbed. "They said I pretended." Keanu visited that same night. He found Sammy under the covers. Trembling, he sat beside him on the bed and whispered, "Do you remember the first day we met?" Sammy nodded slowly. "Did we lie that day?" Sammy shook his head. "Did I protect you?" Another nod. "Then no matter what they say, we know the truth. And truth has a way of standing on its own." But it wasn't just strangers who turned. An event Keanu had been invited to, a charity gala for youth shelters, quietly rescinded his invitation. A company he partnered with for a mental health campaign asked to pause further association until things clear up. And just like that, kindness was no longer trending. Lily showed up at his house 2 days later, fire in her eyes. "This is garbage," she said, slamming her laptop shut. "And we're not letting it go." Keanu looked up. "What do you have in mind?" "Proof. Evidence. You helped that boy. You didn't stage anything. We fight back with facts." He nodded slowly, but with dignity. "No insults, no shouting." She grinned. "Deal." They contacted the shelter where Sevi had stayed briefly. A worker there confirmed that Sammy had come in scared, hungry, and alone. They verified his story about running away, not for attention, but out of fear after a violent encounter in their neighborhood. They found footage from a nearby market camera showing Keanu walking with Sammy just moments before the officers stormed over. It showed clearly. No setup, no script. Just a man offering water to a scared child. they reached out to the internal affairs officer, the silver-haired woman who had defended Keanu that day. She agreed to record a video statement. "What I witnessed," she said, "was an officer acting with bias and a citizen famous or not responding with compassion." The video was shared online. And slowly, things began to shift. The truth started to breathe again. But the final blow to the lies came from someone unexpected. Malcolm, the same boy from the shelter who had written the mysterious letter. He uploaded a short video from his room, just his face. No background music, no editing. "I'm the one who wrote the letter," he began. "I said Keanu helped the wrong boy. Not because I wanted to hurt him, but because I was scared." He paused, his eyes wet. "I lied about Nadia hitting her kid. Sammy told me that stuff when he was angry. I believed him. But I found out later none of it was true. He was scared, but not because of his mom. Because of what happened to him outside. He was chased by someone near the shelter. He didn't know how to explain it. And I blamed her. I'm sorry." His voice cracked. "Keanu never paid anyone. He just showed up. He just cared. And people like him don't come around often. So don't push him away now." His video went viral. And suddenly, everything shifted again. People began apologizing. Not all, but enough to matter. Journalists who once speculated now retracted. News channels quietly removed their false reports. Hashtags changed from #scam to #StandByKeanu. But most importantly, Sammy walked into school the next day and wasn't called a liar. Instead, his classmates clapped. One even said, "Your friend Keanu's cool." And Sammy smiled. A real one. The first in days. Keanu was invited back to the charity gala. This time, he accepted. But before he went, he visited Malcolm. "Thank you," he said. Malcolm shrugged, pretending not to care. "Just fixing what I messed up." Keanu sat beside him. "You were honest. That takes more guts than most people ever show. So, you're not mad?" "No," Keanu said. "And if you ever want to be part of the Sammy initiative, there's a spot waiting." Malcolm's eyes widened. "For real? For real?" At the gala, Keanu didn't walk the red carpet. He entered through the side door. He didn't give a long speech. Just stood quietly on stage and said, "Kindness isn't always easy. Sometimes it gets twisted, tested, and mocked. But I still believe in it, and I always will." The room went silent. Then roared with applause. Not for the actor. But for the man. Later that night, as Keanu stood alone near the window overlooking the city lights, Lily joined him. "So, what now?" she asked. He turned to her. "We keep going. Because there are more Sammys out there, more Nadias, more Malcolms." He looked down at the city below, and they deserve to be seen. But far below, in a dark car parked near the corner. A figure watched him through binoculars. And whispered, "He has no idea what's coming next." The final stand, when truth speaks louder than fame, had been 3 weeks since the storm. 3 weeks since the world tried to tear Keanu down, only to watch him rise again, not because he fought back with anger, but because he stayed rooted in truth, compassion, and calm. The Sammy initiative was now expanding. They had opened their first family trauma support center in South Los Angeles. It wasn't flashy, no giant banners, no media frenzy. Just a safe, quiet place where people could walk in without fear, whether they were kids running from something or parents breaking under the weight of silence. Nadia now worked full-time as a support counselor, helping mothers like herself navigate pain with dignity. Malcolm, the boy who once sent an anonymous letter, now led a creative arts group at the shelter. And Keanu? He remained at the heart of it all. He didn't sit in an office or chair meetings. He showed up with groceries, read bedtime stories to kids, and listened more than he spoke. But peace never lingers for long. One evening, after a long day at the center, Keanu got a call from Lily. Her voice was shaky. There's a man. He came in asking for you. He said he knows the real reason Sammy ran away. Keanu felt a chill. Did he say his name? No. But he left this. She texted him a photo. It was a snapshot of an old school report card with Sammy's name on it. And in the corner, a note scribbled in blue ink. You saved the wrong child again. Look deeper. Keanu's breath slowed. This wasn't just a grudge. Someone was following them. The next day, Keanu and Lily met with a retired detective named Alvarez, an old friend who had worked with child protection cases for decades. He looked over the notes, the letters, and the report card photo. This handwriting, he said, pointing. It's not the same as the first letter. Someone else wrote this. What does it mean? Lily asked. Alvarez leaned back. Could be nothing. Or it could mean there's another child. One who was supposed to be noticed that day. Someone who saw what happened with Sammy and felt invisible again. Keanu rubbed his hands together. We need to find them, Alvarez nodded. I'll start with the shelter logs. But you should talk to Sammy. That night, Keanu sat with Sammy under a tree in the center's garden. Fireflies blinked around them as the boy played with a toy car in the dirt. Hey, Keanu said gently, can I ask you something? Sammy nodded. That day at the beach. Were you alone the whole time? Sammy hesitated. No, he whispered. There was a girl. She was hiding behind the trash bins. She said not to talk to anyone, but I was so thirsty. So I came out. Keanu leaned in. Do you remember her name? I think it was Sarah. Keanu's heart dropped. Was she scared? Sammy looked down. She had bruises on her arms. She said her uncle was mean. Keanu called Alvarez immediately. 2 days later, they found her. Sarah, age 7. She had been at the beach that day. She had seen everything. And when people rushed to protect Sammy, she ran in the other direction. No one had noticed. No one had looked. She had ended up in a motel with her uncle, who wasn't really her uncle, but a man with a record and a fake name. He had taken her from her foster placement 2 months earlier. The kid had taken her from her foster placement. Police raided the motel the same night. Sarah was rescued. And when she saw Keanu at the center, she froze. You're the man, she whispered. He kneeled slowly. I'm sorry I didn't see you. But I see you now. She didn't run. She hugged him tight. After that day, the Sammy Initiative added something new, a mobile rescue team that partnered with authorities to track and locate vulnerable children. Their motto was simple, see every child, and it was working. Within a month, they had helped 6 more kids. Then came the biggest moment of all. A letter arrived. Delivered. From Sammy. It was written in shaky handwriting, with drawings on the side. Dear Mr. Keanu, I'm not scared anymore. Thank you for giving me back my mom and for being my friend. When I grow up, I want to help kids too, because I learned something. You don't have to be famous to be kind. You just have to care. Keanu folded the letter carefully. Eyes wet with emotion, he put it in his coat pocket. Not for the world. For himself. Months later, the headlines had changed, but Keanu stayed the same. He turned down awards, refused interviews, and kept showing up where he was needed. Because to him, the real spotlight was never meant to be on him. It belonged to the forgotten, the overlooked, lost, and he would keep walking beside them until they all felt seen.